We're live. We're live. Okay, what's up, guys? I am Gabe. I'm going to be doing a topic today on virtual wholesaling and wholesaling automation. I'm really excited to be presenting to you guys today. It's a great opportunity for me to share my knowledge, as well as hopefully for you guys to learn a thing or two. So why don't you guys start by just putting in the comments where you guys are coming from, what part of Jersey or wherever you guys are from, and we can get started. Figure out how we're gonna.
You got it? Everything good?
We're good, man. Good. Just had a little technical difficulty with the thing, but I think we're good now.
Hey, so by the way, for anyone who doesn't know Gabe, like him and his and their company, they are killers in the New Jersey market. All right, like this is very important because I remember when I first got started off wholesaling, like I was looking for someone that like knew what they were doing. Gabe and his company, like they are literally experts in the New Jersey markets as well as the surrounding areas. And if you are not fired up to be able to spend 40 minutes with this dude, because he's going to dive in and let you guys know how his operations are and what you need to do to be successful in this business, like this is the best webinar to be on if that's what you're looking for. So Gabe, we're super excited to have you. Listen, if you guys are tuning in, we already got over 20 people here with us and we haven't even started yet. Okay, so share this with your friends, put it in the comment section. Let us know how excited you are to learn about the wholesaling strategy. And if you guys have any questions for Gabe, make sure you put them in the comment section as well so he can get those answered for you. Gabe's going to kill it. Good luck, brother.
Thanks, Eli. All right, so just about the presentation. So I'm going to tell you guys about like virtual wholesaling versus kind of like wholesaling here in New York and New Jersey, kind of what the advantages versus the disadvantages are. I want this to be really as interactive as a presentation as possible. So if you guys have any questions or anything, just put it in the comment section and I'll get to it as quickly as I can. Looks like we got Pat from New York, we got Nadine from Newark, got a couple other people, man. It's going to be really fun. So just a little bit about myself, guys. I've kind of been doing this, involved in real estate since 2017. I started wholesaling with two of my buddies. We had absolutely no experience. We had no idea what the heck we were doing. But we were fortunate enough to just grind it out for long enough that we started getting a couple deals. Just slowly over the past 3 years, we've been scaling our business and growing. Now we're in 3 major metro markets, throughout the East Coast of the United States. We plan on being in another 2 to 5 markets by the end of 2021. We typically are doing about 15 to 20 deals a month in those markets that we're currently in. Once we got the model down to really do deals and have it be scalable, man, it's really not as difficult as you think to grow the business once you have those systems in place. And that's kind of one of the things that we're going to talk about later in the presentation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, I know a lot of you guys may be new. A lot of you guys might be thinking like, where should I wholesale? We're all located in New Jersey, New York. But should I be doing it here in my own home market, or should I be going other places around the country? So I wanted to just kind of start by talking about the pros versus the cons of virtual versus kind of in-person, boots on the ground wholesaling. So we're in a market here in New York and New Jersey where, just because of the city and because of our proximity to the city, the property values are very, very high, right? We're typically looking at fixing and flipping properties. The ARVs are, $400,000, $500,000. It's very, very profitable if you're flipping. And if you're wholesaling, because of the values, you can make larger assignment fees. So, our average fee in the New Jersey market, just to give you guys an idea, is roughly $20,000. Whereas opposed to in the Southeast markets that we're in, we're actually right now we're in Atlanta and we're also in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. The average fee is only around $11,000-$12,000. So when you close a deal, you make more money on average, which is really the pro. Everybody likes making more money. That's why we do this. But there's a lot of cons, as you can see on the list. So all of these cons pretty much make it so it takes your deals much, much, much longer to close. In fact, it actually takes twice to three times as longer for us on average to close a deal in the New Jersey market versus in Southeast markets. So the first thing that's going to slow you up is going to be attorneys. Here in New York and New Jersey, it's very, very litigious. Every seller or almost every seller that you come across is going to be represented by an attorney. That attorney is going to take several days, if not longer, maybe even a week or weeks to review your contract. That's not good, man, for a couple reasons. One, it's obviously a delay, and delays are bad. Two, they're going to want to make changes to your contract that are going to, make it more difficult for you to do the deal. And, even three, let's say you have a really, really great deal locked down. You've got this property at, 55% of the ARV, 60% of the ARV, and it takes the attorney a week, 2 weeks to review your contract. Well, guess what? This is a competitive market, man. Other people are going to be reaching out to your seller, and your seller might say to the guy, no, I already made a deal with this guy at $100,000. We're selling the property to him. We're in attorney review. Well, the other guy's going to say, I'll give you $110,000. And then the next thing you know, the attorney's just sending you a termination letter, and you lost the deal like that just because of the attorney review process. So not only is the attorney going to slow you down, but the attorneys are going to kill deals for you. The attorneys are also going to ask you to put down larger deposits than you want to make. When we do a wholesale deal, we typically like to put down a $500 earnest money deposit. But these attorneys will want, $5,000, $10,000, 10% of the purchase price, which just makes it extremely capital intensive. And it's, like I said, it's not scalable. If you have to put down 10% of every wholesale deal that you're doing, you're not going to have any capital to operate your business. So attorneys are a problem. The municipalities are another big problem, especially up here if you're in North Jersey. So any transaction that we do, we have to get a temporary certificate of occupancy from the municipality, and we have to do a fire inspection. That's going to cause delays. It's going to be a huge headache, especially certain towns. East Orange, for example, are very, very, very difficult to get the temporary CO sometimes. And, we had a deal a couple of weeks ago that we closed, and it delayed the deal 2 weeks because of getting a temporary certificate of occupancy from East Orange, man. It's ridiculous. The other thing is just the lending environment here, because like I said, the property values are higher. Everybody uses hard money. We very, very, very rarely do a deal here in New Jersey where the buyer is a all cash buyer, right? Where they're not using a hard money loan. In other markets where we're selling properties for much, much cheaper, we're selling properties for, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, for example, in the Atlanta metro market. There's a lot more of those buyers that are just using their own cash. You're not scheduling appraisals. You're not, doing all this other stuff to satisfy the hard money loan, and make sure they can get financing because they're using their own money. They can close as soon as title clears. And all of those things that I just mentioned, the attorneys, the municipalities, the hard money, it can double and even triple the amount of time that it takes to close a deal. So, in Atlanta and in North Carolina, it takes us on average 2 weeks to close a deal. So, we lock up a deal with the seller, they sign the contract, and 2 weeks later we're getting paid. Where in New Jersey, it takes us on average 6 weeks to close a deal. So yeah, you get a little bit more money on average on the assignment fee, but it's going to take you 3 times as long to close that deal. That's no good for me, because this is a volume and scale business when you're wholesaling, right? Because it's not like flipping. You're not making a ton of money on each deal. So you need to be able to do a lot of deals. So even if you're making a little bit more money on the deal, if the turnaround time is twice or three times as long, over the course of 12 months, 6 months, quarter, half year, you're going to be making less money in the New Jersey market as opposed to if in the Southeast market that you're virtually wholesaling in. So let's go to the next slide, and just some more advantages to wholesaling virtually. You can select the best markets to wholesale in, so around the country. So you can just pick any market around the U.S. that you think is going to be the best market for you. Typically markets in the Southeast are really good, and the Midwest, there's also good markets. We look for areas where there's lots of cash transactions going on. There's lots of distressed properties. And even, within the major metro market, we select the best zip codes and the best towns within those markets to send our seller marketing to. So you're really maximizing your campaigns. You're getting the most amount of deals for the least amount of money marketing, and you're getting the best possible ROI, which is why we're all in business. We also select areas and markets where the inventory is much easier to underwrite and the MLS is better and easier to use than in New Jersey. So, just for example, in New Jersey, the inventory on average is much older. Here in Essex County, we do a ton of wholesaling in Newark and, the Oranges and Irvington and Bloomfield and Belleville. We're dealing with properties that were built in the early 1900s most of the time. So, your properties, 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, it goes on and on. So when you're underwriting a deal in a neighborhood, it's a lot harder to find comparable sales as opposed to we look at some areas in Fulton County, for example, where you have a whole neighborhood. Every house in that neighborhood is a 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom ranch. So if you're trying to find a comparable sale, which market is it easier to find comparable sales, in Atlanta or in New Jersey? It's going to be much easier for you to analyze deals in those markets, especially if you're a new person and you don't have a ton of real estate experience, which, a lot of people starting off in the wholesaling game are. It's going to be better in those cookie cutter kind of markets. Another thing is obviously it's much more convenient to work totally virtually. No physically going out and walking properties, no buyer getting them to showings and seller appointments and all of that stuff that you're just driving out and doing. You don't have to do any of that when you're working virtually in a market. So it's much more scalable, and just obviously with COVID-19, it's a lot safer, and B, there's a bigger market for it. A lot of people nowadays, they don't want us physically going out and looking at their property. They just want to get an offer over the phone. They don't want, they don't want to be exposed to the virus, and they want that convenience. And there was definitely a market for that pre-COVID, but now even in New Jersey, where we live and where we operate, we're doing all of the same practices that we do in the virtual markets. So yeah, it's definitely a good time to start virtually wholesaling for that reason, as well as other reasons. And then just the general scalability of it, right? If you're a business owner, you want to spend that time that you have every day in the office, making calls, locking up deals. You don't want to be driving all over the place. That used to be my thing, man. I used to just spend all day just driving to properties and looking at properties and meeting with homeowners. And you only have so much time in the day, man. And just when you're driving around doing stuff, it's not a good use of your time, and it's not very efficient, and you're not going to get as many deals if you could, if you were virtual, if that makes any sense. Guys, if you have any questions of anything that I've said so far, put it in the comments. I want to have this be interactive. I want to answer any questions that you guys may have, even if it's unrelated, man. Definitely want this to be conversational as opposed to me just babbling on. So like I said in the in the description for this. I really wanted this presentation to be actionable. And okay, Bill's asking, how do we find buyers to wholesale in virtual markets? We're actually about to go over this. So this is our process of how we enter a new market virtually. This is every single thing that we do. I wanted to make this as actionable as a presentation as possible, as meat and potatoes. Oh, shit. So yeah, so once we choose a market, we will try to have at least 350 buyers. And there's several ways that we do this. So we do look at like tax records, and we find LLCs that are purchasing properties in those markets, and we'll use that to locate buyers. And we'll do all the same things that we do in this market. Facebook, we'll use Craigslist, we'll use the MLS as well, to talk to realtors and find the realtors who are working with cash buyers. But yeah, man, pretty much anything and everything to get a good buyers list. And especially once you're in a market and you're marketing deals, that's when you also really start building your buyers list. I mean, if I put out a good deal, there will be 50 people who want to join my buyers list. It's kind of how it works. There's a difference between New Jersey and North Carolina. Trying to review. So yeah, there's no states like there's no states in like New Jersey and New York that are really as litigious, and attorneys are, doing things quite the way that they do it here. There's definitely closing attorneys that people use in those markets, but having every single contract reviewed by an attorney the way that it is here is it's not the same. We have deals here in Jersey where the attorney review period will take 2 weeks. That's pretty much unheard of in any other market. I talk to, buyers and agents and, other wholesalers, other title companies in, not only Atlanta and North Carolina, but also the other markets that we're looking to expand to. We're looking at 3 other ones right now. And, that's pretty much unheard of. Unheard of, man, to have deals take that long in attorney review. And, it's really the problem with it is just it gives the seller time to go and shop around your offer, right? Because if you're going to be an attorney review and you've got a deal at a great price and it's going to be a big deal, and this happened to us last week, man, it kills me. Other people are going to be hitting up that seller. They're going to be sending them direct mail. They're going to be cold calling them. They're going to be sending them texts, and they're going to say, oh, you've got the property in, with another guy, you're an attorney review at $100,000. We'll give you $110,000. And, just like that, you lost the deal over $10,000. Okay. CB asks, how do you handle boots on the ground in these markets? That's a really good question. So we do a couple things. So you want to have a list of runners, people that can go take pictures, people that can go and do those things. Typically what I will do is I will go to one of these Facebook groups of Uber drivers, and I'll just recruit a couple of them and just say like, hey, we'll give you $25 if you can go take some pictures of this property. The other thing that we do is for our virtual tours, which I'm going to get into in the next slide, we actually will partner with a brokerage down there, and we will pay for their MLS access, their licensing fees in order for us to have access to that MLS. And we'll also buy, let me just go to the slide. We will pay for their Matterport camera and allow them to use it. If they we'll just have one of their agents or one of their representatives go and make the tours for us that we need. So the way that we market deals virtually, and now due to COVID, we actually do it the same way here in New Jersey, is we do these Matterport virtual tours. I'll actually show you one of them right now. So these virtual tours from Matterport, if you're an agent, you're probably familiar with these types of things. but they're actually, give me 1 second, virtual tours of the property. So you have to buy one of these cameras. It costs about $2,500 to get a good one, and it gives you a full virtual tour of the property. So you can look through every inch. So what we actually do is we partner with a brokerage down in the market, and we will have them go and make these tours for us with the camera that we provided. And we'll also allow them to use the camera for their own listings and their own deals. And it's a win-win for everybody, right? Because they get this camera for free, they get this technology, but they also make everything for us so we can operate in that market, and we have boots on the ground in that market. So hopefully that answers your question, CB. It's a matter of just, either A, having people that you can pay, like kind of just runners, just like I said, we usually do Uber drivers. If there's any other ideas, you can put them in the comments. I think kind of that thing. But then also partnering with a good brokerage down there, or a good real estate agent is something that we will always make sure that we do. And you definitely want to have something that you can market your properties to the buyers, like with these virtual tours, because it's very hard to get people into properties to do showings when you're not in the market, especially now with COVID-19. It's not easy, and this gives buyers a really, really good idea of what they're getting into. If you're trying to sell them one of your wholesale deals, this property, for example, you can look at everything with these tours, man. They're really great. And, we sell deals really, really fast. On average, we actually sell deals about 3 to 4 days faster than before we had this technology. So it's really improved our process having this. Okay. Love to hear as much as possible your source of deals in New Jersey, and if you get a deal with oil tanks in your properties under contract to remediate or just disclose. Okay, so that's another good point. So another reason why we don't like New Jersey is because of the oil tanks. So oil tanks are like unheard of in any other market, man. It's funny. I was talking to somebody in Atlanta. He was a contractor. He's been a contractor for 30 years, and he didn't even know what an underground oil tank was, because that's just not a thing that happens there. Nobody has properties with an underground oil tank. So if the property has an underground oil tank, what we will do is we will allow the buyer to have a soil sample done. And then if there's any kind of contamination or any other environmental issues, we will just offer them to refund their deposit. What typically will happen is they will get a quote for the remediation, and then we'll go back to the seller and say, like, hey, man, your property's got soil contamination. Here's a quote. It's going to cost $5,000 to remediate the soil. We need a $5,000 price reduction. And they usually will go for it, because if they didn't know that their property had contamination and now they know that it does, they want to get rid of it even faster, because they know that it's a huge liability. But the buyer, you have to give them that protection, because nobody's going to get involved in a deal if they have any sense in them where, they're not protected in the case of, environmental issues like soil contamination. So you have to give them that. Our assignment contract has a clause, Jeff, that will say if there's soil contamination from a UST, the buyer is entitled to a full refund of their deposit, and they're basically out of the deal. So you have to give them that option. But if there is soil contamination, we try to make it work, and we try to get a price reduction from the seller. If the seller doesn't go for it, it depends on your deal, right? If there's $5,000 of soil contamination and we have a $20,000 assignment fee, and the seller's not going to go for it, sometimes you just have to take that $5,000 hit and then only make $15,000. It really depends. And, sometimes the lender can also take issue with it. We just had a deal where the buyer had to pull the oil tank before closing because the lender wouldn't lend on the property with the oil tank. So, it really depends on each individual situation. The lender can have something to do with it, but yeah, it's definitely something you have to be wary about. And it's definitely something that you have to make sure that your buyers are going to be protected. Otherwise, they're going to be very, very hesitant to do deals. I've seen them that gig workers that just take pics of locations. Have you used them? I've not done that. That sounds like a really good idea. I will have to look into that. That's smart. So these apps, I guess is what you're saying. It basically does like what I was talking about with the Uber drivers. It's just basically people who are gig workers who will go to the property and take pictures of it for you, or do something like that, and you just pay them a little bit of money, and everybody's happy. That would be that would be great. So yeah, just going back to this this thing about how we enter markets virtually. This is like a step-by-step process that we use, to enter a market. This is every single thing that we do before we say, all right, we're ready to go into market X. So, obviously first you have to choose which market you want to wholesale in. For the transaction side, we'll typically find an attorney that we can just have, answer any questions we have. You definitely want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're complying with every law of that particular state. Just because you can do something in New Jersey does not necessarily mean you can do it in Delaware, New York, Iowa, wherever. You'll want to have a good title company that you can trust in that market. That should kind of go without saying. Then on the disposition side, obviously you want to have access to the MLS over there, and you will want to you'll want to know how to use it, of course. You'll want to identify the best counties and zip codes in the market. So just one general thing for us is, we're typically marketing to middle and lower income zip codes. If you want to do high-end areas, it's probably not going to work out very well for you, because there's not going to be a lot of distressed properties and distressed homeowners. You can actually research online, which zip codes will have the most distressed properties. You can look up the median incomes. You can look up, how many cash transactions there are in a given zip code. And those are kind of the things that we look at when we decide what zip codes within a market we want to send seller marketing to. Yes, Don, I will. I'm going to have on the last slide, I'm going to have like all the information for my like social media, Facebook, Instagram. Just hit me up, and yeah, I can definitely share that with you. So once you've identified the best counties, zip codes, submarkets of the metro market that you're going to be working in, you definitely will want to get some buyers. We typically will say at least 350 buyers in order to enter a market. Otherwise, even if you have a deal, you good chance you won't even be able to sell it. You want to at least have 350 people who are bona fide cash buyers. And we will join all the Facebook groups in whatever market we're entering. We will use the MLS to find cash buyers. We will, use LLCs and land records to find buyers. We will, use other social media things like Craigslist and Connected Investors, and really anything and anything, man. However you can find these people, we do it. We do it. So another really, really important thing is you're going to want to find out the buyer's buying criteria for each market. So every market is different. And man, I was so surprised when we started virtually wholesaling, exactly how different things are in different markets. The repair costs are extremely different. So if you have a project in New Jersey that's a full gut renovation, that will typically cost you $110,000, $120,000. Well, in the Southeast, it's going to cost you much, much, much less. Most people I talk to they're doing a full gut renovation in the Atlanta market for $70,000 to $80,000. So that just goes to show you how much it can differ. So what I will typically do is once we have this list of buyers and I know some people in that market, I'm getting on the phone with these people and I'm having conversations with them. I'm just saying like, hey, like if you've got a lipstick renovation job where you need paint, floors, molding, some minor landscaping, some light fixtures, how much is that costing you? If you need to remodel the kitchens and the bathrooms, how much is that costing you? If you need to do a full gut renovation, how much is that costing you? Because if you don't know how to analyze a deal in the market, and then you start sending marketing and the sellers are calling you and you don't know how much you can offer them or how to look at the deal, you're going to be screwed. You're going to lock up deals that aren't going to make sense. You're not going to be able to sell them and you're going to get discouraged and it's not going to work. So before you're marketing, you need to know, how they analyze deals. In these markets, most people will, when they're looking at rental properties, they'll look at what's called the 1% rule. So they want a deal where they're going to be all in for 100% of the rent. So if it's going to rent for $1,500, they're going to be all in it, $150,000. So as long as you know what criteria your buyers are buying and you also know what the repair numbers are, generally speaking, for those markets, you're going to be good. If not, you're going to have trouble. And yeah, find out the repair figures. I kind of just went over that. You need to know. And just in terms of the marketing, so in terms of marketing for deals in that market, you're going to need MLS access, same way that you are in the dispo side, so that you can look at comps. You are going to need to find out how to get the property tax records for that market, or you can just use ListSource. However, you're going to be pulling your records for marketing, you're going to need to know how to do that before you enter the market, of course. You're going to need, if you're doing text marketing, you're going to need your text numbers. You're going to need, just know how you're marketing. If you're doing direct mail, if you're doing SMS, you're going to have a strategy, man. You need to know what you're going to do. We always create a new website for every market that we're in, just A, for, to attract seller leads, and then B, to just for your own credibility. If a seller asks you like, hey, are you a legitimate company? Do you have a website? Things like that you're going to want. Figure out how to get the motivated lists. So when you're wholesaling and you're doing any kind of marketing, we have what's called motivated lists and unmotivated lists. And unmotivated list. Oh, sure. Yeah, no problem.
Also, it can spit out this for you. Also, spit out this for you.
Hold on. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Is that better? Okay, so like I was saying, there's motivated lists and there's unmotivated lists. An unmotivated list is just an equity list, right? So if you want to pull, every property that has, more than 50% equity in, Essex County, that's an unmotivated list. The only thing that you know about that person is how much equity they have. There's no reason why you think that they would be motivated to sell their property. A motivated list, on the other hand, is a list where you're pulling people that are going to have motivation to sell. Either it's a person who's tax delinquent, either it's a person who, is evicting a tenant, an eviction list, whether it's a probate list where, it's a person who's inheriting a property from a family member who's died. Those are lists where it's much more targeted, right? It's going to be a smaller list of people, but, those people are going to be much more motivated. So you're going to convert a lot more of those leads on average. So you want to know how you're going to get your motivated lists, because that is going to be the best lists for you, especially if you're starting out and you don't have a ton of money to spend on marketing. You want to be getting the most motivated lists possible. And you're going to want to find your Matterport operator, order the camera for them. If you're going to be doing that, which I would highly, highly recommend. If you're not going to be doing that, you need to get your runners. Your people who are going to be going to the properties and taking pictures, or, if you have to get a buyer in, who are going to go there and make sure that the buyer can get in. Because if you don't have any boots on the ground, you're going to be in big trouble if you're in a market virtually, because there's just some times where you're going to have to do things. Do you use PropStream? I do not use PropStream. So there's a couple problems with PropStream. Their data is just not accurate at all. So we used it, we tried it one time, and we pulled a vacant property list, and none of the properties on the list were vacant. So they can have all this data that you can pull, and in theory it's great, but if the data is not good and it's not accurate, you're just going to be wasting a ton of money. So I would highly not recommend using PropStream.
The house with the 2 vacant houses next to us, and the PropStream lead was the 1 non-vacant.
Yeah. I got a funny story about PropStream. Actually, we pulled a vacant list off of PropStream, and one of the properties on the list was a house, and the house was owner occupied, and the 2 properties on either side of the street were like vacant, boarded up houses, and neither of those houses were on the vacant list. But the one house in between those houses that had tenants and were owner occupied or whatever, that property was on the list. So PropStream is, if it were actually accurate, it would be the best thing in the world, because it's nationwide data, and you can pull comps, and you can pull lots of different types of lists. But unfortunately, it's just no good. And if you really want accurate data, you need the MLS. Unfortunately, there's no way around it. So yeah, guys, that was pretty much everything that I prepared for you. I wanted this to be a interactive transaction, or presentation, whatever you want to call it. Let's just fire away, man. Let's do it. We have another 9.5, 8 minutes. Yeah, bro. Let's chat. If you guys want to connect with me, here's my Instagram. It's it's at Gabe Paolella. If you want to find me on Facebook, my full name is just Gabriel Paolella. I'm sure you'll be able to find me, and we can have a nice chat, connect. So yeah, do you guys? How many of you guys wholesale here in Jersey? Just like say yes or raise your hand or show me some love.
So you don't want me to change that?
What are your top 3 lead generators? George, how's it going, bro? We were talking the other day, man. So top 3 lead generators, in terms of like ways that we do marketing, or like places where I pull the leads. So if you're pulling leads, we pull just straight from the tax records. We pull leads off of ListSource. If you're doing probate or something like that, there's a lot of different probate providers. What probate provider do we use?
Probates we get from the municipality. Pre-probates we get from Foreclosures Daily.
So we use Foreclosures Daily for pre-probates. Probate lists you can actually pull straight from municipality if you go to the county hall of records, and then everything else we just pull either from the MLS or straight from the tax record websites. Do you select markets that use title companies versus attorneys to close? We always use title companies, even if the market will typically do attorneys. For example, up here in North Jersey, a lot of people use closing attorneys. We use a title company. We actually use Clear Skies Title, who ironically enough is presentation.
Shout out our own title company.
Yeah, we're also we're starting our own title company that's going to be like designed for wholesalers and investors. That'll probably be up in New Jersey next month. So yeah, if any of you guys are interested in that, definitely let me know. Okay. So George, you're asking about like what types of marketing that we do. So we primarily are doing direct mail and SMS marketing. Driving for dollars is really, really good if you don't have any money and you're trying to get your first deal. but it's not scalable, right? You can only drive around so much. Cold calling, you know, I want to actually get bigger into cold calling this year. It's really great, especially if you can get a call center once you're scaling your business. But if you're looking for your first deal, man, if you are, you know, just starting off, if you're working another job and you're trying to get into this, man, if you just get a list and you get a dialer and you skip trace those names and you dial them through, it's a great way to start, man. Would highly recommend cold calling. But yeah, for me, direct mail is good. The thing about direct mail is it's expensive, right? So if you're going to send a postcard, it's you know, it's about 35 cents a mailer. So that's a lot if you're trying to send a big list. SMS is a little bit different. So that's text marketing. You know, the sellers will get a little text like, hey, you know, are you interested in selling your house? SMS is very cheap, right? You can send a text for a few cents or even less, but you know, the response rate is not going to be as high as direct mail. So it really depends on how much money you have to spend. If you don't have a lot of money to spend on marketing, I would do SMS. If you have more money to spend, I would probably think about direct mail. If you have no money to spend, I would do driving for dollars and cold calling. Please email us the slides. I couldn't read them on the screen. Jeffrey, yes, if you can just message me on Facebook or Instagram, I can send you everything. Let's see, what else do we have? We get a copy of that flow chart. Yes, CB can definitely give you a copy. Just if you can find me on Facebook, I can definitely share it with you. I'm an investor looking to connect with wholesalers. Do you recommend any Facebook groups or forums with wholesalers? So yes, actually, I have a group called NJ Off Market Properties. The only thing that happens in that group is wholesalers posting their deals. It's called NJ Off Market Properties. I'm the moderator of the group. I own the group. Definitely join that group. The New Jersey Real Estate Investors Association, the people who are putting on this thing today, this awesome event, they have a really good group as well. Those are the two best ones that I know of. How could someone find a private lender to lend in New Jersey? That's a good question, man. You know,
send them to My House Deals.
Check out My House Deals. That's a good one. Are you talking about, Enrique, like a private money lender or a hard money lender? Hard money lenders, you can pretty much find them anywhere. There's probably a dozen of them presenting today. Do you use Podio to track your leads? Jason, great question, man. So we do use Podio. We actually have a custom build out of Podio that we, me and my two business partners, that we are about to actually start giving to other wholesalers on a subscription-based model. It is by far the best Podio build out for wholesalers out there. We've used InvestorFuse. I've used just about all of them. Mine takes the best of everything and has even more when it comes to just tracking your KPIs, when it comes to just having a scalable operation, to texting. You know, ours is really built for a 7-figure wholesaling company. And if you're interested in that, if any of you guys are, definitely contact me, because we're just starting out and we're going to be giving it to people at a really just amazing rate. Like, you won't find a CRM like this for anywhere near the price. Really, really good, man. Glad you asked that question. What's your Instagram and Facebook information? Enrique, I think it's actually up at Gabe Paolella for Instagram, and Gabriel Paolella is just my name for the Facebook. So private money lenders, you know, this kind of goes to your own, you know, personal network. You know, there's private money lenders are really great, but they're not like hard money lenders in the sense that they're, you know, like a company that they're advertising like, oh, you know, borrow from us, you know, and they're not, you know, marketing at events like the hard money lenders here. You kind of have to go out and find them. So, you know, network, go to events like this and network with people. You know, that's how I found some private money lenders. There's, you know, people who will go to those events who are just wealthy individuals who will be looking to lend money to real estate investors. How have some experience under your belt. From my experience, if you approach one of these guys that's just a private individual and you don't have any experience, you've never done a deal, that's probably going to give them cold feet. Whereas opposed to if you have some experience, they'll probably, if it's somebody that you don't know very well, you might make them a little bit more hesitant to lend to you. If you have, any people in your network of friends or family or, anybody like that who, has money or, is looking to maybe get some better returns that are available in the stock market. If you just approach somebody who has, money in some kind of retirement account or something that they have access to, man, and you just say, hey, I can give you guaranteed 9% return on your investment for a year, for a year loan term, they'll jump on that, in a lot of instances because, that's more stable, it's guaranteed and it's on average a much better return than, people are getting in the stock market or, with other kinds of investment accounts. So that's kind of what I would do in terms of private money. I'm not an expert in that field. There's probably other people who are presenting today that are better suited for that than me. Do you do any lease options or creative techniques? I don't. The thing about that is if you're looking for deals for yourself to buy and flip or buy and hold, I think that's a really great option. At one point I actually bought a deal for myself as a buy and hold that I did owner financing on. But in terms of wholesaling, it's not really a very scalable model because you have to put a ton of work in to get that sort of thing done, right? It's not something that you can do 10 times a month. So you might be able to get one or two more deals if you're savvy in terms of creative financing. I know people who have wholesaled, sub 2 deals and, deals with seller financing and things like that. But, for me, it's not really something that I ever see myself doing because it's not really scalable and it's not something that I can continually do and do a lot of deals on. So if you're good at those things and you find a deal that you can wholesale like as a sub 2 or something, definitely do it. But, it's not something that I would try to build a business off of. Any other questions? All right, guys, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before I hop off here. If you have any questions, just ask and I'll answer them before we go. But, for any of you guys who are either wholesalers or fix and flippers who are marketing for deals and finding deals here in the New Jersey market, which it seems like a lot of you are, we have a program where, we will hire our services and our team to basically be the whole back end of your business. If you have a deal or if you have, a series of deals, we have probably the best dispositions team in this market of Northern New Jersey. And we probably have the best transaction team of this market in Northern New Jersey. So if you have a deal, if you're a flipper, if you're a wholesaler, and you just bring us the deal, we handle the rest, man. It's not like a traditional JV where we just find a buyer and then you're kind of on your own. We pretty much take the deal and we make sure with 100% certainty that as long as there's nothing outside of our control, that the deal will close. And it allows you to scale your business, which is, really the name of the game in wholesaling. And it allows us to just take care of everything else from there, man. We have a guy that we did it with, shout out Kenny, and we closed $50,000 of deals with him last month, just from our JV program. And, he's just locking up deals like crazy and he doesn't have to worry about the attorney review or the dispo or the COs or the closing or, any of the nightmare things that you have to deal with in this market that I talked about. He just goes up, locks up a deal, brings it to us. We close it. We do a profit split that makes sense and, everybody makes money and everybody makes money a lot faster and does more deals. So if anybody's interested, yeah, we even have our analyst underwrite it. if you have a deal that you can just show me and say like, hey, like, do you think this is a good wholesale deal? I'll tell you right off the bat, yes or no. And yeah, man, it's a really great program. If you are looking to do a deal and you don't have a huge buyer's list, or you don't have the operation in place to be able to do every step of the deal, locking up a great deal is awesome if you do, but if you're trying to wholesale it, that's just the first step, right? You've got to find the buyer, then you've got to go through the whole transaction process, which honestly is probably more work than just finding the deal. And so if you're like a one-man shop, or if it's just maybe you and a partner and you guys are just starting out, maybe you have other jobs, maybe you're a flipper and you have other projects going on, you don't have a ton of time on your hands, this is a really, really great program to to make a lot of money and to still have time to do other things, work your other job, get more deals, and scale. So if you guys have any other questions, I'm going to stay on here for another probably 2 minutes, and just kind of talk with you guys. And if not, it's been really fun. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to hear what I have to say. And it's been a great experience for me, and hopefully for you guys too. Follow me on IG. Do you wholesale commercial? So we don't specifically market for commercial properties because, you're not going to find a ton of deals, and you're not going to find a ton of like distressed owners. But, if we find a deal, or if somebody calls us with a commercial property, we will certainly try and wholesale it. Especially if it's smaller commercial, like maybe if it's a mixed use property, or if it is a property that's like 4+ units, it's definitely something that we'll try and wholesale if the numbers make sense. Typically for those types of deals, people are looking at it from from a cash flow standpoint. So they'll be looking at it from a certain cash on cash returns, or a cap rate. So usually if somebody's calling you, it's going to be a distressed property. So it's going to be a deal with a lot of value add. So I would recommend trying to lock it up at, a 10 cap, or roughly a 10 cap. So that way you could sell it to somebody at almost a 10 cap, and there's a lot of value add. So by the time they, do whatever needs to be done to the property and get it up to the market rents, they're getting a deal that's a really great deal, because it'll be a, 12, a 13 cap, a 14 cap after they do the value add. And, that's a really good return on your investment if you're buying a commercial property. So that's generally speaking how I would try and do it. If somebody calls you and, they have, 6-7 units residential, or if they have, maybe a mixed use property, or a commercial, like an office or a retail property, that's probably what I would do. Enrique, can you see it up here on the PowerPoint? I've got my Instagram right here at Gabe Paolella, and then my Facebook name, just Gabriel Paolella. Let me put it in the chat. Let me see if I can do that. It's not letting me put things in the chat for some reason, but it's at Gabe Paolella. That's Paolella. And then, yeah, I'm trying to do a deal with you guys, but the seller went MIA. Oh man, dude, Noel, that's the worst. Every now and then we'll have a deal where the seller will do that to us. What probably happened is somebody else made them a better offer. It was probably another wholesaler. It sucks, man. It sucks.
Just let them know that in their contracts they need to make sure that they have the right to sell the property.
Yeah, and if I can't see it clearly, hold up. Let me see what I can do, Enrique.
So I'm gonna start hitting the seller with different phone numbers.
Yeah, Noel, what I would try and do, try and call the seller from a different phone number, because maybe they're trying to duck your calls for whatever reason. They're ducking your calls. They're trying to ghost you for some reason. So if you try calling them from a different phone number, maybe they pick up. If they don't pick up and they're not picking up for like just random phone numbers, that probably means that like something happened to them. It's tough times right now with COVID-19. So maybe they're sick or a family member got sick. You never know what happens. But I would definitely try just seeing if they answer. From a different cell phone number than the one that you have been calling them from. Can't see it clearly. Oh shoot. Let's see. Yeah, Enrique. For some reason, it doesn't let me comment in the comments. Otherwise, I would just like give it to you. But it's at Gabe, GABE, PAOLELLA. And I think I've seen you on Facebook, man. I'll shoot you a friend request. But yeah, another thing, guys, if you are doing a wholesale deal and you want to work with us, try to make sure that your contract has an assignment clause. Because if it doesn't have an assignment clause, like just the regular standard New Jersey purchase and sales agreement, it is not a contract that we can assign to another buyer in wholesale. So, you can run into a ton of problems. If the seller doesn't want you to assign it, or, if for some reason things go wrong and they want out of the deal, they can say, hey, I never gave you the right to assign this contract. So definitely make sure that you have, some kind of clause in your contract if you plan on wholesaling it that says that I have the right to assign this contract to another buyer, and all of the terms will remain the same if I do assign it to them. Not going to get a wholesale agreement to use in New Jersey. How can I get a wholesale agreement to use in New Jersey? So, I would probably just speak with an attorney about that, Enrique. If you were doing a deal with us and we were going to partner on it, I would be able to let you use my purchase and sales agreement. So you would definitely be good because you'd be using my contract. If not, it's a little bit of a legal liability for me, so I wouldn't be able to share it with you. But yeah, there's definitely there's assignment contracts. If you probably just go on the internet and look at other kind of wholesaling education groups that will have assignment contracts, I would definitely, before you use it, I would have it reviewed by a New Jersey attorney and make sure that you're doing everything legally for this state. But yeah, if you want to work with me, man, just definitely hit me up. Title company, can you give one? So yeah, Ellie, I'm actually launching my own title company next month. That's actually going to be geared towards wholesaling and wholesalers. So if you are interested, definitely get in touch with me. If you're looking for something right now, there's another guy.
Our shit is up right now.
Okay. Yeah, there's another guy, Clear Skies Title. I think they're actually presenting in this one today. That's another good one. Yeah, definitely want to be careful. There's a lot of bad title companies in New Jersey, especially a lot of lazy title companies that if you don't know who they are, I definitely would not recommend using them. I want to do a deal in NC. Can you talk through the steps that you would do to steal and close this deal? Oh, seal and close the deal. Seal and close the deal. So yeah, I mean, if you're doing a deal virtually, Obviously you're going to want to get as much information from the seller as possible about the property. And make sure you're locking it up at a price that you can assign it for. And once you have that, I would go ahead and send them a purchase and sales agreement, preferably an e-sign version, like through a program like Right Signature or DocuSign that you can that they can just sign over their phone or over their computer. That way you're not mailing contracts, you're not doing anything crazy like that. Once you have a deal locked up and you've underwrote the deal, it makes sense. Either if you have buyers in that market already, I would go ahead and start marketing the deal to them. I would probably call them, text them, send an email to them just to let them know that you have the deal. If you don't have any buyers in the market, it's going to be pretty difficult for you. What I would probably do in that situation is just find a good, reputable wholesaler in that market and try to do a JV deal with them. Because if you don't have any buyers in that market, it's going to be very, very hard to assign the contract to somebody who's legit and who will close. There's a lot of people out there who say they're cash buyers and, they're serious and they want to close on the deal. But when you actually start asking people to put down a $5,000 deposit, not so many of them are serious. Seller's house, loan shark style, sign the contract. Well, you're crazy, bro. If you want to go knock on their door, I like the assertiveness, bro. Just be careful nowadays, man. People are not too friendly of just random strangers just knocking on the door with the COVID-19 pandemic. I would definitely drive by their house if you know that they live there and just see if they're home. Definitely a good idea. But yeah, man, whatever you can do, just be careful. Don, I appreciate the love so much. I'm glad that you could get value out of this. It really is fun for me to share this knowledge and to help people, man. All right. Anything else? We've been on here for an hour and 2 minutes. We're way above the time. Anything else? I'll stay on here for another minute unless somebody says anything else. Appreciate it so much, Noel. Thank you, man. So glad, so glad I could provide value to you today. We're gonna do a deal soon, bro. We're gonna do a deal soon. If it's not this one, man, it'll be the next one. You can't. One thing that I've learned about this business is you can't get too hung up on one particular deal. If the deal's not going to work, you just got to move on to the next deal. When I first started, I wasted so much time, man, just so much time. Just trying to make everything a deal, even if it was not a deal. If the seller is just going to ghost you and they don't want to do a deal with you, it sucks. And, I hope they come around and we end up doing the deal and we end up making a killing on it. But, if they're not going to, you just, your time would probably be better spent, getting the next one. And finding a new seller who actually wants to sell to you. That's just kind of my piece of advice, because you can spend hours and hours and hours on something. And then if it doesn't turn into a deal, you just kind of, you spent all those hours and you didn't make any money. But, just doing more cold calling or, whatever you're doing for marketing, you'll get a deal. There's plenty of deals to be had. You're going to do way better in this business if you have an abundance mindset. And yeah, man. What are the services you use for your biz? i.e. PropStream, HelloSign. So for our CRM, we have a custom CRM that we're actually going to make available to you guys starting next month. It's called Deal Flow. It's a custom CRM based off of Podio. We've customized it, so it's probably the best, definitely the best CRM out there for wholesalers. Just in terms of having a business that's scalable, where your marketing is tracked and your KPIs are tracked, and you can text like crazy. You can track your deals like to a T. You can have a dispositions process that that is like none other. You can definitely do all of those things on our system. We're just launching the CRM next month in September. It's called Deal Flow. If any of you guys are interested, hit me up on Facebook or Instagram. We are going to be offering it at a crazy price to the people who start early. Crazy price. A lot of people, when they're first starting off, if they're using Podio, they'll use what's called InvestorFuse. InvestorFuse sucks, and InvestorFuse is also twice the price of what we'll be offering us for. So that's what I use for a CRM. I do not use PropStream. PropStream is not very accurate in terms of its data. So, you can have data and you can pull, X number of leads, but if it's not accurate information, what good is it? You're going to be spending all this money on marketing, and the information is not going to be accurate. So you're not going to get a ton of deals, and you're going to be spending a lot of money. So I would not use PropStream. I'm trying to think. CallRail is a must if you're wholesaling. You can't be using like your own personal cell phone number or like a Google Drive number. You need to be tracking your calls. You need to be tracking your KPIs. So you do need a call service, and CallRail is by far what I would recommend. For texting, we use a series called Appearon. Definitely contact me if you're interested in using that program. Trying to think anything else. Those are the big ones for me. Obviously we use like Google Drive to keep all of our files in order. We use probably what everybody uses for our finances, QuickBooks. Yeah, for sure. Frustration. Can you tell us what materials you use for your daily motivation? My own daily motivation, Don. Personally, I read out of the Bible. Definitely a little Eric Thomas as well. But definitely probably just a morning daily Bible reading is kind of what I will do. I think motivation is good, but discipline is much more important, because you're not always going to be motivated. There's going to be days where you wake up and you're tired and it's Monday, and you can watch whatever motivational video you want, or whatever book you want, but discipline that I have a schedule where I do this, and that, and I stick to it. I think that's much more valuable than motivation, because motivation comes and goes, right? You can feel really motivated one day and then feel like no motivation the next day. And it doesn't matter who you are, that's just going to happen. But if you have discipline, man, when you do it, even when you don't want to do it, that's when you're really going to be crushing it. That's just my opinion. Obviously everybody's different. Everybody, some people, they need that little Gary V yelling at you in the morning. And if that's what gets you by, more power to you. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for staying for the entire hour and 9 minutes. It's been really, really fun for me. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of it. If you want any other information, if you want me to share some of these slides with you, if you want any of the slides, just contact me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm more than happy to share anything with you guys. This has been so much fun, and I hope you guys get so much value out of today, me and everybody else. And I will catch you guys on the flip side. How do I log out of this thing?